select the default cube. And the way you know it's selected, you can see it has this orange outline. So if I quickly deselect it, you can see there's no orange outline, but if I click on it, I can see its sections, and I know under this it is around the geometric mode and go into the key hit to what with the key these text mode. Select we have selecting one, and you can see they hold now and this. They essentially just make the modifier or and once again. So that's what you do. You can go to viewport and do that over here by going front. And if we want to be able to mod things down here, if you go and you click the effect, the main element of this once kind of you put will left hand so actually button. Guys, if I press A, you can now see a version of you guys to see what I'm pressing this. And I've got an add-on in Blender that you guys will see in your version. See down here, or whatever, or command kind of default scene. We have click light scene. If that's what brings a minute plane like that. Because front taking have it over here. You just have inputs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 number pads. If you have a laptop and you don't have a number pad, you can go to edit. You can go over to preferences. And you can go over here to inputs and you can go emulate number pad. So if you don't have a number pad and you just have the basic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on at the top of your keyboard, you can press emulate number pad and then you can close this and that'll do the same thing. Or now if I hit N on my keyboard, you guys don't have to do this. And I've got an add-on in Blender that I'm using that just allows you guys to see what I'm pressing. So I'm going to just enable that. This is not something that you guys will see in your version of Blender because I've specifically downloaded and installed this as an add-on. But you can now see down here, the keys I'm pressing are now visible. Visible to you guys if I press see in your version of Blender because I've specifically downloaded all that on in Blender that I'm using.
Hello and welcome to another SpazTech tutorial. If you've watched other tutorials on Blender, you'll notice that a lot of them will have a little picture
Want to know how to create awesome videos? Check out motionarray.com. You can do it too. Titles easy, intros easy, kittens bridge.
Tutorial link file. So you'll find a link. Let's go ahead folder and just I'm going to go down preferences here. And inside preferences we'll click install. and then we'll navigate to my desktop and we'll select that zip file and click install. See, this option here will pop and we'll click general.
Using that just allows you guys to see what I'm pressing. So I'm going to just enable that. This is not something that you guys will see. Let's go add dude. Here's the circle. So add into the ref numbers from my key selector, and you see click your text and still and again the next one but work. Again, if you want a bunch of certain kind of properties that I apply to them that can sometimes make things easier for us. For example, if we go over down here under the generate, we can go over to what's called a mirror modifier. And the mirror modifier is essentially just going to take this geometry and take one side of it and mirror it exactly the same on the opposite side. If you've ever wanted to learn how to do things like 3D, it absolutely not in a 3D. If you've ever wanted to learn how to do things like 3D, you can go emulate number pad at the top of these points. Then we can be and exactly on and now we need to select our geometry and just move it to the side. So what we're going to actually do is we can hit A to select all of the geometry. Then in our front orthographic view, we can go G, X, and move it over to the side. You can see it's actually mirrored on this side here. And over here, you can see that's our X axis this way, like to your front, by the way. So you can, and over here, you can see we have the cube mirrored on the X. You can also change these, by the way, X for now. But what we also want to do is cube, we want to come over here and enable clipping. When we enable clipping and we take this cube and we go G, X, remember it's all selected because we hit A to select everything. So we're going to go G, X, and we're going to move it in, and you can see these are clipping together now. They're in the middle. So we're going to bring it in just about this much, and you can see they're clipping together. See there, and if we hit G and then X to move it back on the X, so hit G and X, move it this way, you can see they're kind of stuck together, and that's what clipping is for, which is all good. Now they're fused together, and whatever we do on this side, we'll copy on that side. But at the moment, if we hit Z, so if you hit Z on your keyboard, you can go to what we call wireframe, so you can actually see through this, face that face. Come over here and hide the modifier. You can see there's a face in here. So let's just go to face select this face by clicking on it, then hit X and delete that face. Once again, select it, hit X, and just delete the face. Now we can just bring that back and make sure clipping is enabled. So now what we can do is we can hit A again to select all of the geometry, and this time we want to flatten it but on the Y axis, this one over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit S to scale, and we're going to go Y, and we're going to scale it down on the Y to flatten it. So about this much. Okay, if you hit 1 to go back to your front orthographic view, you can hit G, X, and you can move it like this. So we want something that looks like this, and then from the side looks like that. Doesn't have to be exact, but just roughly these proportions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our edge select option, and we're going to hit A twice to deselect everything. So double tap A, and then we're going to select this face here, or edge. So make sure you're in your edge select, and once you've clicked on it, hold in Shift, go to the other side, and then click on this edge. Now they're both active, as you can see. And then we're going to go S, and we're going to hit Y, and we're going to scale it on the Y like this, as you can see. That's really easy to do. And then we're going to hit 1 to go into our front orthographic view. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit Z on our keyboard, and we're going to go to wireframe. Then we're going to go to our vertex select option. We're going to click here, and we're going to drag. So click and drag, and we're going to select just these bottom verts. We're going to click to wireframe. Then we're going to go to our vertex select option. We're going to click here, and we're going to drag. So click and drag, and we're going to select just these bottom verts. And then we're going to go G, Z, and move them up to where that red line is here. That's our X-axis. So you can see it's our floor pretty much. And then we're going to go G, X, and we're going to move these in just a little bit on the X, like that. And while we have those verts selected or active, we're going to go E to extrude, and then Z, and we're going to extrude them down. So extruding them down, extrude, and then Z, and we're going to extrude them down. So extruding them down to about here, like that. So you can see we have almost like an hourglass here. And if you want to go back into solid view, you can go Z and then just click on solid. So now we're back in solid view. And now we kind of have the torso of the body. As you can see, the upper chest and the bottom of our model here, the bottom of the torso. But what we want to do now, where this face is here, we want to extrude a leg. So we went into our front view, and with those faces or vert still active in our front view, we're just going to go R to rotate, and we're going to rotate it a little bit like this. But one of the issues we're going to run into now, if we hit E to extrude and we try to extrude that face in, the vert still active in our front view, we're just going to go R to rotate, and we're going to rotate it a little bit like this. But one of the issues we're going to run into now, if we hit E to extrude and we try to extrude that face in, they're kind of clipping together here, which is not what we want. So we're going to just hit Control Z to undo that, or Command Z. And we have to temporarily just come here under our modifiers to our mirror modifier and just untick clipping. So now if we hit E to extrude and we extrude it out, so I just hit E to extrude, so we're extruding it out, and then just click somewhere here to stop that action. You can see we've now extruded the legs. We can now enable clipping again as we do still need the clipping. With this vert still selected or active, we can now go S to scale them. And if you accidentally did deselect them, all you have to do is just click somewhere here, just drag over them and select them. You can also just go to your face select and just select the face. So for now, let's just actually go to face select and select the face. Go into our front view again for that face active. We're just going to go down to about here, which would be where our knees are. Bring them in a little bit closer. And then we're going to just rotate. So hit R to rotate in your front view. Flatten them out just a bit. Bit, and then E to extrude, bring them down to about here. And then S to scale with that face still active, and then G, and just move it over to the side. So hit G and just move it over like that. So you can see now we have the legs coming down like that. Very, very simple, very basic so far. But let's get started with the top here. So we're going to go, so holding in my middle mouse button to rotate, I'm going to select the top face here. And then what we're going to do is go back into our front view, and we're going to go R to rotate, and we're going to rotate that face just a little bit like this, just to give a bit of a slant to the shoulder. And then we're going to do something that might be a little bit tricky if you're new to it, but we need to add in some extra geometry here. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to go over to our edge select here. So click on edge select. Then you're going to hover your cursor over this edge here. And if you hit Control R or Command R, you should see this yellow line appearing. And if you roll your middle mouse button, you can see these yellow lines increase. If you roll it down, they decrease. So that is what we call a cut. We're adding in an edge loop here, or a cut. So once you see the yellow line, just left click, and you can move the cursor, once you've done your left click, to slide it. Once you've kind of let go of it, so if you click again and that option is no longer there, you can just hit G twice with that edge still active. So hit G twice, and that allows you to slide it along the edges. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to slide it right down to about here. Cursor over this edge here. And if you hit Control R or Command R, so click on this square, and then we're going to go into our front orthographic view. And we're just going to go S to scale. I'm going to scale that square down a bit. So just S to scale. And go back into your front view. Rotate it a little bit more. And then G to move it over to the side a bit. So just hit G. And then you're going to go E to extrude. And then with that face still active, you're going to go R to rotate. And once again, I'm always going to my front orthographic view by hitting 1 on the numpad. So we're just going to rotate that face like that. Then we're going to click on this bottom face. Once again, back into our front view. R to rotate it a little bit like this, G to move it up. And now we're going to go E, and we're going to extrude that face. Out. I'm going to bring it to about here, and then S to scale it. And then hit G and move it just to the side here. You can kind of use a bit of creative license here, place it however you want, but I'm just going to put mine here. And then we go R to rotate. Then I'm going to go E to extrude, and I'm going to go S, X, and just flatten that face. Just like that for now. And then I'm going to hover over this edge here with my cursor, and I'm going to go Control R. Once again, we see the yellow line. Just with my cursor, and I'm going to go Control R. Once again, we see the yellow line. Just left click. You can move the cursor to move it, but I'm just going to leave it there by left clicking again. Go into your front view, and then with that active, you can just hit G and just move it out just a little bit, and then R to rotate that edge. So now we have the arms coming together. It's still very primitive at this point, but we are trying to make this as basic as possible for beginners to understand how modeling works. So let's hold in Shift in our front view just so we can move around. Once again, just remember that. And roll your middle mouse button to zoom in. And now we're just going to hit Z, and we're going to go into wireframe. And we're going to go to our vertex select option. And over here in the front, you can just click anywhere and drag. And we can select vertices. So I'm just going to select these guys here. And I'm going to hit G, and I'm just going to move it up just to make the legs a little bit. Shorter, and this is where you can come in and you can correct the proportions however you want. So it's completely up to you how you want to do that. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. Leave it as is. And with these bottom verts actually selected here, what we're now going to do is we're going to scale them just a little bit more, and we're going to make the feet. So in your front view with those selected, we're going to go E to extrude them down to about here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit Z. We're going to go into solid view. Go to your face select, and once again select the face over here. We're just moving over to the side a bit. In fact, hit 3 on your number pad to go to the right orthographic view. And if that face active, you're going to go go E to extrude, and then Y, and you're going to extrude it forward on the Y, like so. Go to your edge select, select this edge here, and then go G, Z, and bring it down. Go back to face select, select the face here, and then we're going to hit 7, or Control 7, or Command 7, to go into the bottom orthographic view. You can also just go to View, Viewport, and then go to bottom. And if that face still active, we're going to go R to rotate it, and then S. Z7, face still active, we're going to go R to rotate it, then go to bottom. And if that face still active, we're going to go R to rotate it, and then S, X, I'm going to scale it a little bit on the X. Maybe just rotate it a little bit like this by hitting R. Then go to your vertex select option, and holding and shift, just click on this vertex and this vertex so they're both active. Control 7 again to go into a bottom orthographic view, and then G just to move them out like that. And then click on this one, hold and shift and select this one. Control 7 again to go into the bottom. And you can just move that however you need to. Just to kind of make the bottom of the foot. So just use however much creative license you need, but just something like that, basic should be fine. And then we can come over this corner here with our cursor, hit Control R, and you can see a yellow line appearing. Just left click and then move down to here. Left click again and then just S to scale that in to kind of make a bit of an ankle. And that's how simple that is. Double tap A to deselect everything. Shift and Alt. So if you hold Shift and Alt in, you can actually click on an edge and that'll loop select the whole edge. So once again, Shift and Alt in. You can actually click on an edge. And that'll loop select the whole edge. So once again, just practice that. Shift, Alt, and then click on an edge, it'll loop select it. And you can go S to scale that as well, however you want. So I'm just going to scale that down just a little bit. You can also just hit G in your front view just to move it like that. So just position the knees where you feel you need to, but around here should be okay. So far, it's all coming together pretty well. So let's start working on the upper body here. To come to the upper body, select this vertex here and then double tap G just to slide it back a bit. And then we're going to go to our face select option. We're going to select this face here. And now we're going to hit E to extrude. And once you've hit that, we're going to hit S right after it to scale in. So we're going to scale it into here. And then we're going to go G. Y, and we're going to move it, or GX, and we're going to move it in, and we're going to move scale in. So we're going to scale it into here. And then we're going to go G, Y, and we're going to move it, or GX, and we're going to move it in like this. And then we're going to go G, Z, and just move it up a little bit like that. And then to flatten it, we're going to go S and then Z. So S and Z, and we're just going to flatten it on the Z just a little bit. We're then going to go E to extrude. So S and Z, and we're just going to flatten it on the Z just a little bit. We're then going to go E to extrude, move it up like this, and then G, X to move it in a bit, and now what we can do with that face still active, we can hit Control plus or Command plus just to grow the selection once. Then we can go G, Y, and that'll allow us to move that all the selection once. Still active, we can hit Control plus or Command plus just to grow the selection. Do with that face still active, we can hit Control plus or Command plus just to grow the selection once. Then we can go G, Y, and that'll allow us to move that all back just a little bit. If you now hit free on your number pad, you can go to the side orthographic view, and over here you can also hit G if you want to move it around a little bit easier. So just about here, we don't want the neck too forward or right in the middle, just a little bit more back. Then you can go to vertex select, and you can select these chest vertices here and just move them to flatten them out a bit, just so the chest isn't as pointy at the front. So just like that, you can also select the verts at the back and just move them in. Once on the shoulder here, you can also move it in. The arm itself should not be sitting too forward in the body. In fact, an easy way to solve this is just to go Shift Alt, click on an edge down here to loop selected, go Control plus, and grow the selection till the whole arm is active. So that should be enough. And so just make sure it's only these here that are selected, the arm. Go to your thing here called proportional editing. So if you click on that, you can now go G, Y, and move it back. And if you roll your middle mouse button while you're doing that, you can control the Y and grow forward in the body. In fact, an easy way to solve this is just to go Shift Alt, click on an edge down here to loop selected. Go Control plus. Alt, click on an edge down here to loop selected. Go Control plus, and grow the selection till the whole arm is active. So that should be enough. And so just make sure it's only these here that are selected, the arm, go to your thing here called proportional editing. So if you click on that, you can now go G, Y, and move it back. And if you roll your middle mouse button while you're doing that, you can control the fall off, so how much goes along with it. So we're going to roll the middle mouse button till it's quite small, and we're only going to move the arm back on the Y just a little bit like that. So once again, I just hit G, Y to move it along the Y. So just back a little bit. You can go into your right orthographic view by hitting 3, and you can actually see the arm doesn't need to be in the middle, just a little bit back, like that. And what we can also do is just select this vert down here and just bring that in a bit. It doesn't need to be so thick. Here at the front. So just using proportional editing here, you can select verts. You can move them around, and you can roll your middle mouse button to control the fall off. So this is a really powerful modeling tool here. I use it a lot in my own work. At the moment, the waist here is a little bit fixed. So if you come here to the edge here, you can go Control R, just click twice, disable proportional editing, and then just go G, Y, or GX, so GX, and just move it in a little bit. Like that. So we already have this little guy coming together quite well. So let's go over to our head. So we're going to go over to our face select this face here, and then we're going to go E to extrude. We're going to extrude it up to here, and then we're going to go E one more time to extrude it about this much. And then we're going to select this face. Holding in Shift, we're going to select this face as well. And then we're going to go E to extrude forward, and then S, and we're going to scale that. Like so. We're then going to select this back face here. Go into your right orthographic view and then go G, and just move that back. And then select this top face here, and just G and move it up in your side view. You can also just hit G, Z, G, Z to move it up on the Z, but we're going to move it up to about here. And we're just making a really basic head. If you hit 1 to go into your front orthographic view, you can just rotate that face like so. And you can also just select these side faces here. In your front view, G just to move them over to the side. And at the moment, the next, select these side faces here. In your front view, G just to move them over to the side. And at the moment, the neck's a bit thick. So if we come in here over this corner, we can hit Control R, click twice, and then S to scale. And now we can just add a little bit of more definition to the neck. And we can also go Shift Alt and click on this edge here. And in our front view, we can go G to move it around. And this is an easy way to kind of define the neck a little bit. It really depends on the character you're making. You might want a bit of a thicker neck, but just something like this should be fine. So you can now kind of see we're getting this guy coming together quite well. In the front view as well, you can just select some of these points on the face, just kind of move them around. And by no means are we trying to make this look really accurate. This is very low poly. We're just going to select this face here and we're going to go G and just also move that down. So just creating a super basic head model here. Maybe just grab this edge here, hit G and just move it in a bit. So now we have a very low poly character here, but what we can do to make this look even better, once again, we can go to our modifiers tab, and now on top of this modifier here, let's go down, click on it, go to the generate, and let's add a subdivision surface. This modifier. What the subdivision surface modifier does essentially, it just subdivides each face, and it's something that you can turn on and off. And you can also come here to the viewport level and increase that. The render here is simply just what it's going to be when it does a final render. What we're going to be focusing on here is actually just at the moment the viewport display, because that's what we're actually seeing. So I've clicked on that now and I've bumped it up to 2, and now we can see it's a lot smoother. But we're still seeing this cage out here, the rough like the rough cage we originally modeled. If you want that to kind of hug against that modifier, you can come over here and click on this cage on, and it'll put that on it like so, and it looks a little bit nicer. So I'm going to click on that, and now we can just do the exact same thing. You can go into your front view, you can just select edges. So I still have my edge select here. You can hit G to move it. You can enable proportional editing to control the fall off, whatever you need. So this is where you can kind of look at a reference image and kind of just define the shape of your model or your character a little bit more. And that's very, very fun and powerful tool to use. And you can select different edges on the torso, bring them in a bit. Just to find the mesh a little bit more and stuff like that. You can come over here to your leg, Shift Alt, just click on this edge here, go to your right view and just go G and just move the leg forward a bit to give it some dynamic. And you can also hit Z, go into wireframe, go to vertex select, and then just click and select these bottom verts and go G, Y, and just move them back a bit, like so. Just create a little bit of a bend in the legs there. So here you can see, using some very basic and rudimentary modeling techniques, we've kind of made a figure. And once again, I'm keeping this super basic for absolute beginners. That's why it's a very basic looking model with no like big features. It's just getting the main proportions established. So what we can do now, if we want to make some very basic hands, is we can simply just go to our face select, then just select this face down here. And with that active, we're going to hit G and just move it in a little bit. I'm in my front orthographic view. And then just E. To extrude it a little bit more. And then I'm going to come over here, over this edge here, and I'm going to go Control R, click twice, and then double G just to slide it up a bit. Then I'm going to go to my face select and I'm going to select this face right here. Then I'm going to go to my right orthographic view and I'm going to go R to rotate and then G to move it forward a bit. Then I'm going to go E to extrude, like so, and then E to extrude one more time. And then I'm going to disable proportional editing. With that face active, I'm just going to go Control plus, and then I'm going to go S, X, and I'm just going to scale that down a bit. Just to make a very, very simple looking thumb, we can select this face here, we can go G, Y, and just move it back a bit. And then you can come over this edge, Control R, click twice, double G to slide down to here, and then S just to scale it like that, just to create a basic wrist. So this is a very, very simple character. You can just select edges anytime you want, G to move them. So I might want to select this edge here, G to move that. Very, very simple. All I'm doing is with my edge select here, I'm moving around, clicking on edges, and I'm hitting G to move them. Let's hit 1 to go back into our front orthographic view. And here you can see we have the basic character done. So I'm just going to go back into object mode over here. So go into object mode. You can also hit the tab key as a shortcut to do that. And at the moment, it's not looking very smooth. So with this cube still active, we're going to go to object mode up here. And we're going to go shade smooth. This cube still active, we're going to go to object mode up here, and we're going to go shade smooth. So now we have nice smooth shading on here. And if you want this guy, so example in object mode, if I were to hit R to rotate him, you can see he's actually rotating around this point here, which is what we call an origin point. But what we want that origin point to be is at the bottom of the feet. Quick way to do that is just to tab into edit mode, hit A to select everything, and then go G, Z, and just move it up till his feet are where that little orange dot is, or where the floor is. So you should be sitting right on the floor. Then we're going to go back into object mode, and now if we hit R, you can see he rotates around that origin point. So here now in our scene, we have this character here that's really low poly. So that means there's very few points you actually have to edit when you go into edit mode. But he also has a subdivision surface modifier, which makes him look nice and smooth. So once you've learned these basic extrusion techniques, and also just how to select verts, how to select edges, and how to select faces, and also how to scale them, rotate them, and extrude them, right? Once you've learned that, you can pretty much make anything in a 3D space, and you can also use your subdivision surface modifier. You can at any time come over one of these edges here, hit Control R, click twice, double G to slide, and add in more geometry. And that's how simple this is. I hope you guys enjoyed this absolute beginner's tutorial on modeling in Blender. I know it's a little bit lengthy, but it is for absolute beginners. So this is probably, if you're really new to this, this might be one of your first creations in Blender, and I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm just going to go back into object mode here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll quickly show you guys the one I made earlier when I was practicing this. You can see this one, exact same thing. I just spent a little bit more time on it, defined the proportions a little bit more, but it's pretty much the exact same technique. And I kept it really simple for beginners. So I will see you guys next time for a over things in a little bit.
In this video, we're going to use Blender to keyframe
o conforto ao longo do split que os Vitality conseguiram em ter um maior número de vitórias.
a run animation and tweak the animation for a little bit more of an expressive run cycle as well. If you haven't seen the 2 previous videos in this series, check out the first video where I model this character, and in the second video we create an armature and rig and weight paint. Is creator. In this video, you're going to learn, press 1 on the keypad, you're going to learn how to turn this low poly character into a rigged character so you can animate them. Model this character and you can. It's not really much fun having a guy sliding around in a T-pose all day. So we have to create a skeleton for him so we can actually animate those with keyframes and have the arms and legs moving, or even turn him into a ragdoll if that's what you want to do. And we're going to start by creating the armature. I press 1 on the keypad to go into the front view here. Make sure I've got no object selected here, and make sure the cursor is in the center here as well at the feet. Very important. Also, the character's center should be at the feet here. We model this character with its pivot point down here at the feet. Good practice to do it that way because then it's easy to position the character in a world. So make sure that pivot point and the origin of the character is at the base of his feet, and also this 3D cursor now. If the 3D cursor is not there, maybe it's over here, press Shift C to reset the cursor. And then I'm going to press Shift A to add an armature. And that creates a big fat bone right at the bottom here and slides it straight up. The first thing we want to do when this bone is selected is go to this little tab here called Object Data Properties, but it looks like a running man. Go into Viewport Display and tick in front. And that will show this, but it looks bone through the body. Go into Viewport Display and tick in front. And that will show this bone through the body. And you can see if I press the middle mouse button now, it's actually in the center, but it looks like it's showing it in front all the time. And then I press Tab to go into edit mode for this bone, and we've got this armature up here selected. I'll click with the left mouse button on the bone, press 1 on the keypad, and then I'm going to slide it up now, and there's a few ways to do that. G I usually do, but it's difficult to keep the center here. You can press Z to force it into the movement of the blue Z axis here. Then I'm going to put the balls where they go, and then click on the tip here, and then you can either enable this little move tool here or press Shift Space and G. That's a shortcut for that. Slide it down. We're going to have a little pelvis bone here, or a root bone. That's for his hips. And then I'm going to press E to extrude this bone now, and press Z to lock it into the Z axis. And this is going to be a spine bone that we're going to. Put there. E to extrude one more time, and then Z to lock it onto the Z axis. And this is going to be the upper part of the spine. And then I'm going to skip the neck. I'm just going to do a head for this one. So I'm going to E to extrude this one, Z, and then up to the top of the head here. Now when I use the middle mouse button, I can rotate and see that it seems to be pretty good in the center of this body here. Click a bone here and press F2 to rename it. This one I'm going to call root. Usually that's a common word for the root bone. Click on this one, press F2 and name it spine 1. Click on this bone, F2, spine 2. Click on this bone, F2, and this is going to be called head. Now we need arms and legs, so I'm going to click on this little joint here between the upper spine or spine 2 and the head. Press 1 on the keypad or the numpad and E to extrude this one down, and press 1 on the keypad or the numpad and E to extrude this one down. And sometimes, or usually, I create a shoulder bone as well. I'm going to do that for this one. So I'm just going to extrude this one down to where the arm is going to pivot. So about here. And then E to extrude to the elbow, and E to extrude to the hand, and then E to extrude to here. Not so picky with the up and down, so I didn't lock it to any axis now. You can either click on one of these joints here and press G to refine these a little bit if you need to. Click on this one, G to move that up, maybe to there. What is important, however, is that you want to make sure that you pick this elbow joint and move it back slightly. Just a little bit like this will do. And it's because if it's straight locked like this, and it could be a little bit tricky to animate it because the it's called an IK solver or inverse kinematic solver. It doesn't really know how to fold the elbow if it's perfectly straight. So just put that little bend there. That'll help a lot later on. Okay, we're going to do the same for the legs now. First of all, oh yeah, that one's connected. So we'll rename this first. Press F2, shoulder.
In this object, so that the object can be all all you need to do is tap with all shine top V I'm doing a hand.
And here you should always do rename this first. So on this, his will do all wireframe E will down, don't and middle alone and go can actually help the button. We need to later. We name okay, let's talk nub and then we go arm so we gotta do for the we also with the three because then like and all I do is to come as if we L this bone rename the little P on if and do the knee his one. E to extrude it, and we'll just do it straight down roughly like this, not too picky on this one. Click this bone and press G to move it, and we're going to put it where his hip is going to be, roughly there. Click on this to see what we'll do with the perform pad. G, Z, like one more, really want to, you don't need to keep before it all do here, so we haven't done that. We do nub, K-name, polar, it's in row that joint, it's only going to exist actually down the control construct and put in here that foot because and we've done now two. The inverse can see that it's actually if I click on this bone in the or the arm, just press because if it's straight like this will do. do. And it's because if it's first of all, oh yeah, that one's connected. So we'll rename this first. I'm going to do the same for the legs now. First of all, oh yeah, that one's connected. So we'll rename this first. Press F2. Shoulder. And here you should always do period or dot full stop L. Because that's his left now, his left shoulder. And we name it .L because then we can do automatic symmetry later on. Then Blender will know how to translate that into a right side. So the same for this one. Click on it, F2, upper arm .L. .L, very important. Click on this bone, F2, lower arm .L. L, and then here, F2, hand dot. L. So that's our arms. We're going to do the legs now. So click on the ball by the groin. 1 to go into front view, E to extrude it, and we'll just do it straight down roughly like this. Not too picky on this one. Click this bone and press G to move it. And we're going to put it where his hip is going to be, roughly there. Click on this bone, or this joint here, G to move that down to where the knee is. It could be a little bit tricky to see where we put the geometry for the knee, so do Alt-Z. Okay, that was no good. Maybe we'll do Z and do wireframe. And we see we want to move this all the way down to here, to the center of his knee. G, move that one down to there maybe. And E to extrude. Keep this wireframe view if you find that one easier maybe. And then that's going to be the lower leg, and then E one more time. And then we can lock it Z if we prefer on the Z axis. And now when we look from the side, I'll press the elbow to there. Press F2 and then go to solid again if you want to have it like this. And we need to rename this. So click on this bone, F2, upper leg dot. Like this. And we need to rename this. So click on this bone, F2, upper leg. dot L, this bone, F2, lower leg, dot L, and then F2 foot dot L. There's one more thing we want to do before we mirror this, and that's we want to set up inverse kinematics, and that's really good for, especially for legs. When you keyframe and animate the character, you don't really want to have to change as you lower his body weight down. You want the legs to bend automatically. You don't want the legs to come down with him most of the time. So you have to fold the leg manually. It's really tricky to keep the feet planted then. So we're going to set up something called inverse kinematics. Before I do that, I want to go to front view here. 1 on the numpad, press A to select all the bones, and in this view now, in edit mode, press Shift N. And do recalculate roll on the view axis. It doesn't look like anything happened here, but it actually helps a lot when we do the animation later on, because then it knows which way to roll the bones. If you want on the view axis. It doesn't look, then it knows which way the roll angle on the knee joint, and press E to extrude this one. See the side here. Click on the knee joint and press E to extrude this one. Just a funny bone like that. Click on the heel joint here as well. Press E to extrude that one. Looks really weird at the moment, but I'll tell you why. This one we need to do Alt P and clear parent, and then press G to move it. This is going to be called what's called an inverse kinematic pole bone, and basically it's nothing else than it needs to have this bone so it knows where to aim the knee. So when it folds the leg, it wants to know in which way should my knee face. So that's what this bone is going to do. It's going to help us. We also have to do this, go to the bone here when this is selected and deselect deform. Otherwise it might try to deform this mesh later on using this bone, and we don't really want the knee stretching forward here. Same thing for this bone. Click on it, do Alt P and clear parent, but leave this one just where it is. But we do have to go to the bone here and deselect deform. Just the same way. And then we're going to rename these bones. So click on this one, press F2, and then name this one IK leg pole dot L. Click on this one, do F2 IK target dot L. That's going to be a target bone. We've got a few more steps to do for this leg inverse kinematic. I click on this lower leg now, and then press Control Tab and go into pose mode. And now we've got a few more things now, and then press Control Tab and go into pose mode. And now we've got a few more things here on the right side. Click on this Bone Constraints Properties tab and add a bone constraint. And this one, we're going to do Add Inverse Kinematics. On the target here, you can click on this little dropper tool here and click on the armature. And then on the bone, we need to type, this is going to be the target bone. And we name this one conveniently to IK target.L. So search for that one and pick that one up. For the pole target, we'll do the same. Armature and bone, it's the POLE, and then here we go, pole target. See how it flipped his foot out to the side now? We can fix that by changing the pole angle here. You can slide it or type it in. And since we did the roll angle from the front view, we need to type 90 here on the pole angle, and that'll get the foot to face forward again. And if your character is funking out now, mine isn't, because this, I forgot to actually connect this upper leg bone to the body here. If I press Control Tab, make sure I've got this select again, press Tab into edit mode, so we're out of pose. Make sure I've got this select again, press Tab into edit mode, so we're out of pose mode but in edit mode. Select again to the body here. If I press Control Tab, make sure I've got this select again, press Tab into edit mode, so we're out of pose mode but in edit mode. And if I move this leg now, there's no dotted line here, so we need to connect this leg to his root bone here. So I'll make sure that I select this upper leg first, shift select his root bone, press Control P and do make parent but keep offset. And that created this little dotted line here. And that means that his leg is now connected. Okay, now we can go back into pose mode. So I'll press Control Tab and go to pose mode and select this. Okay, created this little dotted line here. Pose mode. So I'll press Control Tab and go to pose mode and select this joint here. And that's into the pose mode. So I'll press Control Tab and go to pose mode and select this joint here. And that's important here. The chain length needs to be set to 2 because it's only going to affect this bone and this bone here. What we've done now when we've enabled inverse kinematics is affect this bone and this bone here. What we've done now when we've enabled inverse kinematics is that if I click on this bone and enable this little move tool and press G, you can see that it's actually moving the leg now. And if I click on this bone and press G, it actually folds it down. But we've got a problem with the foot because as he kneels down now, or as he squats, the foot is tiptoeing. going down. So that's pretty much the last thing we need to fix for this. So select the foot bone here and go to the bone tab here, click on relations and disable inherit rotation. That was step 1. Now when we move it, it's like this, but we still have a problem. We can't really rotate the foot. We want this target bone to control the roll of the foot. So to do that, make sure that this foot bone is selected. Go to the bone constraint tab again, click add bone constraint, and here we're going to do copy rotation. For target, we want to select this armature again. We select the armature, and here we want to select the target. Bone. And it flipped it to the opposite side now. We need to change the target to local space and the owner to local space. That snaps it back. And finally, we need to do a few more things. If I do R to rotate, that seems pretty good. If I do R around the Z axis, you can see that's actually rotating the wrong direction. So with this selected, we need to flip, invert Z rotation. Now when we rotate on the Z, then the foot is rotated as we expect. We might have the same problem with the roll. So if I do R to rotate and Y, you can see when I rotate this right, the foot is rotating left. So we need to do the same thing. I'll select this bone again and invert. The Y-axis. Now when I click on this one and rotate it, it rotates the same. It's a bit quirky, but you'll get used to that one. Okay, now when we drop, if we select the torso again here and do, or the pelvis and drop, you can see that the foot is nicely planted as he bends down and the knee is pointing. Remember this one, if I move this to the side, you can see that it's pointing the leg. To that one. This is ready to be symmetrized now. So press press Control Tab to go set up inverse animation. You want to flip E to looks really bad. In so in these same go to the bone here where do parameter to, and then on the bone we need to click on this little dropper tool here and click on the armature. You'll get the drop. You can see that it's press Control Tab to go out of that mode, out of post mode. Make sure that the armature is selected here, and then just press normal tab to go into edit mode again. Press A to select all the bones here. And now you can press F3 and type symmetrize. And armature symmetrize here. And that go into edit mode again. Press A to select all the bones here. And now you can press F3 and type symmetrize. And armature symmetrize here. And that automatically, since we named the bones .L for left of all the legs and arms stuff, then it's actually automatically mirrored this into the other side. And now the final step is just to press Tab to go out of edit mode, select your character, and then Shift select. Press Tab actually automatically mirrored this into the other of all the legs and arms stuff. Then it's actually automatically mirrored this into the other side. And now the final step is just to press Tab to go out of edit mode, select your character, and then Shift select the armature and press Control P. And then we want to set parent to armature deform with automatic weights. And I think Blender is usually really good nowadays to get this automatic weight going properly. We can select the armature here, press Control Tab. And now if we try to drop them down, select the torso, G to move it. And the hat is not moving because it's a separate object, but the character is moving good. We can also try rotating the head. And we've got an issue now with the eyes, and that's because it didn't really know how to pick up those as separate objects here. So this is a good opportunity to learn how to fix that. If something, we can check the other parts here as well, the other limbs. Our arms working pretty good. Rotate the elbow here. And could have done maybe some more geometry around the wrist to get less deformation there, but it's pretty good. If you want to move the leg out, G. We got some maybe excessive deformation here of the belt that we could get rid of. G to move on, rotate the knee. And if you want to hide the armature, you just click on this little eye, you can see how it looks. So we've got a few things that we could tweak. The leg seems to be affecting the belt a little bit too much. and the head is not affecting the eye enough. We'll enable the armature again, press A to select all the bones, Alt R to reset all the rotation. And Alt G to reset. All the movements. We'll fix the first part with the belt down here with what's called weight painting. And weight painting is every vertex now. If we go into tab out of Control Tab, go back into object mode, select this character, press Tab to go into edit mode, and press 1 to go into vertex. Then we can see these verts here. And basically these verts have a value now that's linked to a bone. That's what this automatic weight thing did. So on item here, with this vertex selected, I can see that it's picked for the root bone here. It's only put 0.031 affecting. The spine is affecting it a little bit more, and the upper leg is affecting it quite a lot. And that's something we don't really want to do. And it could be a bit tricky here to edit these manually. So usually we do this in what's called weight paint mode. To go into weight paint mode, press Tab to get out of edit mode for this one. Select the armature first from scratch here and shift select the character and go from object mode up here into weight. Scratch here and shift select the character and go from object mode up here into weight. Paint. And that turns in blue like this. And it shows you how the vertices are assigned to different bones. I'll shift click and select a bone. It's very important that you hold shift if you want to select or deselect bones like this. But it's very important now, if I select this bone, we can see that the torso is affecting, blue is nothing, cyan or light blue is a little bit, green is a little bit more, yellow is more, and all the way to red, that's the 100%, how much it, 100%. How much it affects it. So we had some issues here where this leg bone, I'll do shift and select this bone and shift deselect this one first. Shift select this one active. And we want to reduce the amount that the leg here is affecting the belt. So we slide the weight up here now down to 0 pretty much. And then we can just start painting here and see how that color goes back to blue. That means we're removing the weight now. So I'll just colorize this, make sure we take away everything on the belt here. I pan with shift and middle mouse button. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Since we're still in mirror mode, I only have to do this for one side. I'll go back into object mode, select this one, Control Tab into pose mode, and G to move this one. And we can see that that looks better now. We're still affecting a little bit too much on the inner side of the belt. But you can refine this now with the weight painting technique and add and remove the weight now. Remember that the color blue is nothing and all the way to red is 100% how much this bone should affect a vert. For the eyes, we're going to do a slightly different method because we know that they want to be 100% linked to the head. For this one, I'll press Control Tab to go back into object mode, select the character again, and press Tab to go into edit mode on the character. While the mouse is hovering over the eyes now, I'll press L to select the linked vertices here. That selected everything that was linked to this eye. Very handy way to select geometry that's detached from something else. And now I'm going to go up to vertex and go to vertex group and I take remove from all. That means that these vertices are no longer linked to any bone at all, no weight whatsoever, because we want it to be 100% affected by this head bone now. So I'll go back into vertex, vertex group, which is the same actually. I can press Control G to get into here. And I'm going to go set active group. I'm going to select head. And then we'll do Control G again and make sure that we do assign to active group. Now you can see here with these verts selected, we can see that 100% or 1.0, which is 100%, is connected to the head now. Tab out of edit mode, select the armature, Control Tab to go into pose mode, left click to select the head, and R to rotate. And now we can see that the eyes are following good with the head, 100%. The ears could have suffered the same problem, but they seem to be all right. Okay, we had a problem here. I accidentally added the vert here that we must have had this vert, or I did. I'm not blaming you now. I had this vert selected by mistake. You'll do loads of errors on and off. Don't worry about those. It's all about learning how to fix those. Control tab out of edit mode of the armature, click on the character, tab into edit mode, and then I select this vertex here. And you can see now that I've actually got assigned 100% to the head here. So first thing we're going to do here is remove the head weight here altogether. So this one's not linked to anything now. So with this one selected, shift select another vert that you want to copy it from, and then click on copy. And now when we go back, it's transferred all the weights from there to this one. So that should work pretty good now. We can tab out of edit mode, select the armature, control tab into post mode, and G to move this one. That works good, and make sure that the head is not affecting down there anymore. So there's ways to fix it if you screw up. For the hat to follow the head, we can do it differently. Since that's not part of the same object, we can't weight paint that one. So select the hat and go to this object constraints properties. Drop down this one and do child of. Pick the target and pick the armature, and then here, this one, we want to do head. And see that the hat disappeared now, and put it over here. Just click on set inverse and that'll bring it back to here. Now when we animate the character, I'll select the armature, control tab, select the head, press R to rotate, then the hat will follow along with the head. Alright, in this video you learned how to rig a character and set up the armature so it affects the low poly character. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to see a future video where I'm going to In this video, we're going to use Blender to keyframe an idle rig and weight. Now we're going to switch from this. All right, so
they to find.
Welcome to the Metakey project. The Metakey is more than an official gun in the game, an item you hold to get airdrops and discounts. Hundreds of applications can be added to a single meta key, allowing you to take my avatar to digest an image and allow you to decide that's used and give it different value, as a ticket counter to add merchandise, etc. Other
So now we're going to switch from this UV editing tab, and I'm going to be working in the animation tab, and everything looks a bit gray and dull here, so I'm going to take this guy and do head. And see that the hat disappeared now, and put it over, bring it back. Select the head, press the hat, the low poly armor one, that one. And you can see what I did with the head. Control, and then we go to hovering behind this now with. Then we can go shift select the armature, the armor, and armature P properly because it's good. We can also because select the torture default. Out G, select all the bones. The armature again, press A to select all the bones. Alt R to reset all the rotation.
Looking for royalty-free music? Discover Epidemic Sound. Get the safe
just include a video on showing you an example of pretty much pole targets breaking your inverse kinematics. So for example, I have my IK set up here with a hand. And the pole target is set. And it's set to this hand IK here. And as you can expect, it moves around as expected. On this side, I did the exact same thing, but I went ahead and set the pole target. foot control setup, and I can rotate this to move the ankle. And this is just using an IK constraint that I've added, and I've talked about in other videos as well. I've done a full introduction to IK as well, and I just want to give a head start with this one. I'm going to head over to download to move this a little bit. Download to
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.
So press Ctrl Tab to go out of that mode, out of post mode. Make sure that the armature is selected here, just here, and park on the final, and Shift select the armature. Tab to go out of edit mode, select your character, and then Shift select.
Starters, one out of a million will reach those heights. Always had a feeling that I won't deny that work. Never could die. Look at my eyes, I'm on the rocks, rise. A couple million now, I'm causing a commotion. I've been coasting, hear my name around the world like an explosion.
So rise up, rise up. We are the apocalypse, and a pair that keeps us floating. As we fly above the stars, the night won't scare us falling. So rise up. I'm too great to be landed. Rise up. Way too great to be standing.
They never gonna stop us, fly by them like choppers. Better took those risks, hold one of my fists, we fire starters. Let's go, one out of a million.